many extracurricular programs for children and adults who are interested in learning. We'll talk about some of these programs on Talking with Henrietta, coming up next. Hi, I'm Henrietta. Welcome to the show. Do you know of any enrichment programs in your neighborhood that supplement academic learning? Well, most communities have some of them, and many of them are free. In some cases, what is amazing is where they can be found. My two guests on this show are involved with organizations that offer enrichment programs, and they will describe the type of programs their organizations offer, who they are aimed at, and what they are designed to accomplish. Adina Aguirre is seated to my left. Adina is the library manager of the East Palo Alto Library. She describes herself as an East Coast transplant who has lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. She has worked as a children's librarian and as the manager of the library in both the city of Oakland and in the Alameda County library system. Christopher Norwood is seated to my right. Christopher is the founder of the Bay Area Tutoring Association and CodeWritingForKids.com. He is the board trustee, vice president at the Milpitas Unified School District, and a senior fellow at the American Leadership Forum. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Christian Leadership and Biblical Theology. He has received several awards in innovation and for his community service. His organization received an award as the Silicon Valley Nonprofit of the Year. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure having the two of you with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I talk about these enrichment programs. So what type of programs are we talking about?
Well, there's a variety of programs that we offer within Bay Area Tutoring Association and CodeWritingKids.com. But the one that's most popular right now is teaching kids about computer science, computer technology, and computer programming, and that's our Code Writing Kids initiative.
And for the library?
The library offers experiences and learning for all ages, and one of our big tenets is to promote lifelong learning. We offer enrichment through specific programs, such as the Quest After School Learning Program, but also through story times to engage. We are also actually having something for coding coming up. There are summer camps for kids. We have things throughout the whole school year to engage the whole family.
So what we're talking about, the type of programs, are they more now than they've been in the past? Of course, technology has changed, so we have coding. But do you think children just have more now to do than probably in the past?
Do you mean in terms of children being scheduled for more, or just more opportunities for learning
Maybe more
outside?
Opportunities.
I think that, at least speaking for libraries, we've had to modernize with the times. There's an idea of libraries as a place where everybody's very quiet and you go there just for books. And the way that we've evolved to include non-traditional technology. We have a 3D printer, to have story times, ways to engage. We serve meals at the library. I think those are opportunities for people to come and learn in a way outside of school.
Well, I will talk about those in another minute or so, but let's get back to your tutoring program. Now, it's something that you started.
Yes, so...
how did you happen to start it?
Well, I've been tutoring since I was in kindergarten. And I always tell them...
kindergarten.
Yes, yes.
You mean you were tutored in kindergarten?
No, I was tutoring in kindergarten. As I shared with Adina, early on, I was an avid library participant. I had my library card by the time I was 4 years old. So I was constantly in the library. So when I began public school education, I had a leg up, so to speak, on a number of other students. So the story I always share is that it was recess time. I was finished with my work. My friends weren't. I stayed in. I helped them. they got their work done. They got to go out to recess. I was happy. The teacher was happy, and a career or a lifelong
And you remember all of that from 4 years? Yeah, you took
Absolutely.
yourself to the library, right? And you got your library card. I'm sure your parent did.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely. My mom and dad, they very valued they've highly valued education, and so the library has been a part of my life as well as my wife's and my children.
And you started the Bay Area Tutoring
Association. Yes.
I think we have a photo from the website. Unfortunately, we can't see it right now because we don't have a monitor on in the studio. But let's talk about the organization. How
Sure.
did you happen to start it?
So the Bay Area Tutoring Association was a 10-year-long dream or vision. There are approximately 256 cities in the Bay Area, and it's my dream that one day that we're able to support kids in each of those 256 cities in one day or in one way or another with their academics, whether it's math, science, or English language arts. The key subjects that are keys, building blocks to future in America.
How old is it, the organization?
The organization is 3 years old. But I've been involved, again, in tutoring since kindergarten, but then I also did work with another organization called Excel Educational Services, where we focused on higher level math and sciences.
That's interesting. And for the library, Adina, does the library have a tutoring program?
We do. So during the school year, we have something called the Quest Learning Program, and it's based on children's reading levels. So this past year, there were 42 students enrolled. And 69% of them were reading at least one grade below level, and over 50% were reading 2 grade levels or more below level. So we test them at the beginning of this, and then do literacy-based activities, small group tutoring, help them to understand their homework, help them to do vocabulary exercises to raise their reading level so that they will have an easier time with reading and greater success in the future.
How do is this a program that's pushed through the schools where the children take something home about the Quest program?
So we actually try to promote it with the schools. 100% of parents and over 70% of teachers have said that the Quest program has really helped the students enrolled, and we're trying to make sure that the word gets out to the schools so that they can promote it to the parents. One of the things that we try to do at the library is to bridge that gap, and getting the word out about programs like Quest is a big part of that.
So how long does the program last? I mean, a parent brings a child, it's after school, right? Does it last an hour? How long does it last?
So it lasts for 2 hours, and they're in different sessions. So usually kids are in 2 times a week. Occasionally some are in more than that.
For how many weeks?
Weeks I couldn't tell you, but September through May.
Ah, so they're in the program, the same kids in that program for that length of time.
Absolutely, yes. It's a way to make a sustained effort to really improve something. A reading level can't be improved in a day.
Sure. So is it possible to track the kids? I know you said what their teachers said, but in terms of grade performance, how much better they might be doing?
Well, I can at least share with you one story. There's a young man named Jamie, and I met him recently. He is working with the local KIPP schools, and someone said, yeah, that's Jamie. He went to Quest. And I said, what? Turns out he used to hate reading, detested it. And then someone sat down and found the type of books that he liked. Finally, something that wasn't assigned and to him boring. And I believe he is just finishing up his degree at an Ivy League school.
Oh,
Impressive.
gee, that's
Impressive. That's the
Very,
difference.
very impressive.
That's the difference that tutoring and mentoring can make in a child's life.
Now, I wonder, is that an exceptional story, or is it the type of advancement? Is it something that might be common in your experience?
So I would say the story about Jamie is not necessarily uncommon, but there's always a choice. When children are empowered to understand the power of learning and where it can take them, at some point during their journey they have to make the choice to be committed to do something extraordinary with the tools that they're being provided. So the library tutoring, mentors, they all set a framework for children to be able to have the opportunity to make a choice. And that choice is, how far do I want to go? What do I want to be, and how do I want to get there?
So how can children, being children, be expected to make a choice like that? I mean, what do you tell them so that they can understand why it might be important to make a choice like that?
I think I would start by saying, well, we make choices every day. And as children, so for example, are you going to pick up after yourself? Are you going to clean your room? Are you going to spend time reading? There are a number of different things that children make choices on every day.
And I said, no, I don't want to clean up my room or pick up after myself. That's a choice.
That's a choice.
So why should I read when I can sit down and play a computer game?
So I think those are possibly two separate scenarios, because when you are playing a computer game, there is some level of reading, or there is some interactive engagement that goes on. So
I thought that might have been a wrong choice once I mentioned it. Go on.
So I mean, children are reading all the time. Now, the types of reading that they do, as you refer to the story that Adina had shared, was that Jamie had found the type of reading that he enjoyed and engaged with. So, but once he started to develop those skills around the reading that he enjoyed and engaged with, the other types of reading that he was being asked to do or required to do became easier for him to understand and comprehend.
Now, I have a question for you. You know, we hear that if children aren't reading by the 3rd grade, then the pipeline, they are most prone to being in prison later on. And so you said children are reading all the time. The ones that you get aren't reading, right? For the most part.
They are reading. So I think what Chris was talking about is there's so many different ways that you can read. People who are sending text messages, they're reading. An article online, that's reading. But one of the big differences is sustained reading and reading on level. The 3rd grade that you were talking about, it's not that they're not reading, it's that they're not reading on level by 3rd grade. And that comes to fluency with reading, an ease of reading, where you don't have to stop and sound out every word of a book that's meant for a 3rd grader. So while they are reading, one of the things that's really important is finding something that interests them.
Yes.
Books about horses.
Yes.
Captain Underpants.
Yes.
Whatever it is that makes them
Yes.
shine because they're reading something they enjoy and something that captivates them, that will catapult their reading to a level where they feel comfortable, and then they can take on a novel.
Okay, now I had said in my introduction that you have these enrichment programs, and we're going to talk about for whom they're aimed. And so what are the programs? Are these open? Do you kind of focus your attention in the programs on specific groups of kids? Or?
Sure. So just continuing just continuing on that same thought. 3rd grade is where they transition from learning to read to reading to learn. So it's a comprehension issue. It's, am I understanding what I'm reading, and can I use what I've read and apply it to something? So 3rd grade is that window where they're transitioning from sounding out words to understanding words, how to use them in sentences, and then how to apply them to their lives. And there are a number of different types of programs circling back. So you would ask the question, are they exposed to much more now? And I would say absolutely, because if you think about early on, after-school programs were sports-driven and activity-driven. Now we have chess. Now there is, besides chess, there's games, there's gaming, there's coding clubs, there's just different areas of interest for students now. There's drama, there's a number of different types of after-school programming.
And is this for kids across the board, or is it for more affluent kids, or those from underserved communities? Who are most apt?
And that's a great point. For some of the, so for the drama or some of the coding, in some instances, you have more affluent schools heavily immersed in those programs because their parents are driving the after-school instruction and what they want to see in after-school. In the socioeconomically disadvantaged or low-income communities, sports are typically easier. There are some chess, but there's more and more, because schools start to immerse themselves in technology. There are more and more coding opportunities out there, and organizations such as ours, and even as she had mentioned, the library, are trying to expose kids to as much as we possibly can, especially living in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley.
So what groups are most apt to be involved with the library and the programs?
So we offer things from birth until forever. And we
After death?
I'll look into that.
Forever.
Forever and always. We actually have programs that are geared towards babies and towards parents, right? If you have a baby, you take a baby home, they're a very cute little potato who does nothing but eat and sleep and poop and cry, and you don't get to take a nurse home. So we have programs that are actually geared towards how to talk to this really adorable potato that you have.
That really is learning, like, dramatically. Not just a potato sitting there, but someone that's absorbing everything.
Absorbing everything.
The first 3 years.
The first 3 years. So the program we have there is the Talk, Read, Sing program. There are all these commercials about how you should talk and read and sing with your child, and the difference it can make, because between less affluent and more affluent children, less affluent children by age 5 hear 30 million fewer words than their more affluent peers. So we have programs like that. We have story times, we have yoga story times and tricycle music. We've got the summer reading program coming up, which is geared towards preventing the summer slide. During the summer, kids can lose between 1 and 2 grade levels of reading if they're not doing it. So we promote that for all ages. And then we have a bunch of programs around that. We have things for seniors, of course, we recently made necklaces for Mother's Day. You're going to have something for Father's Day. We have gaming, we're going to have coding camps, we have free meals. So for the library, we really try to get this whole person view that you never stop learning.
Yes.
Now, before you continue on, you had mentioned tricycle music. What type of music is tricycle music?
Well, what age usually rides a tricycle? Usually, not always, but usually.
About 5.
Up
3 to 5?
3 to 5.
Yes.
And so it was a music festival where we were having active participants and geared towards that age group.
Now, since we're talking about music, I can't resist, since you have a ukulele right there.
I do. So this is not my ukulele. My ukulele has been co-opted by my child, and she plays it, calls it Mommy's little guitar. But this ukulele is actually the library's, because we're going to be having ukulele classes. Just another way for us to diversify all the different things that we do. So we have these, and at some libraries they're even available for checkout.
And there's a song that goes with that we can hear, or half a song?
There is. Chris was actually singing it with me. Let's see if I can get it right. Ready?
You're gonna
ready?
sing?
You're going to try? Let's see.
The chorus.
Just the chorus? Okay, ready? So, let's see. Kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
So you were a part of that.
Thank you.
That was fun.
So yeah, we're actually going to have drop-in classes so people can learn songs. There are a lot of songs on ukulele, and ukulele is a really accessible instrument. It doesn't take up a lot of room, and it stimulates the brain in a whole different way.
So who said libraries aren't relevant now that there are computers and people are they reading less books, or?
I don't think they're reading less books, and I've definitely heard that. I think all librarians have heard the, what do we need libraries for? But
with Google.
yes, I don't need it because I have Google. Libraries are more than Google. We do have books, yes, and people can download them. And a librarian can get you a right answer. There's a quote by Neil Gaiman, which I'm going to butcher, but it's, Google can return you 1,000,000 answers and a librarian can find you the right one.
Ah.
That's a great point.
Yes.
And I absolutely agree that people are reading. I read on my phone. I read trashy romance novels on my phone so no one can see the awful covers because they haven't changed since the 90s.
Right.
But I would consider that my Captain Underpants. It's what broadens my horizon. I read that and I read novels.
Okay, now.
Yes.
Captain Underpants.
So we were talking earlier, and that was one of my favorite, that was my son's, one of his favorite books. So as he began to develop his reading skills, he would just consume Captain Underpants books, you know, check one out, the next day finish it, go get the next book on a continual basis.
I don't know what generation. I know what generation I'm in. And when I was raising my children, they weren't in that generation. So what are those books about that are so exciting?
So it's about young men. It's about a little boy superhero who called himself Captain Underpants. So he was in his underpants, and he did a lot of heroic things, and he had friends.
To correct you for a second, it is about George and Harold who
Oh,
order
specific.
a hypnotizing kit and hypnotize their principal to become Captain Underpants,
Oh.
who runs around wearing nothing but a cape and a pair of underpants.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it even better for all the kids.
Well, gee, I'll have to go online and use Google.
Or you could come to the library and check out a copy yourself.
Or I could even go online, right? And I
You
can
can.
download it.
Yes, you can actually read those books on your tablet or your computer.
Aha.
Henry, there was something that you mentioned about, libraries not being relevant
yes.
but so
Yes.
if you think about it, we have 5 senses. And for the younger children, the hands-on experience, if you remember the scratch and sniff
Oh,
books,
yes.
which allowed you,
Oh,
if
yes.
someone was reading to you a scratch and sniff book, actually all 5 senses are being engaged except for the taste. So when you think about
Thankfully.
But there are the pages that you could lick. I mean, the kids could, right, a long time ago. But it's an important thing that the children have an opportunity to experience the reading in its fullest. So the library, the hands-on, the ability to see all of the different books, it's just so relevant because you don't get that same experience. You're a consumer of information in a library experience versus being a passive receiver when you're looking at it on a device or a tablet. It makes all the difference in the world for a learner, or young learner especially.
Yes, I would think so. And a lot of people have complained or warned that we're shortchanging our children because they're so focused on that tablet or on their phones that they're not really engaged in the rest of an experience,
Yes.
like engaging socially. And so, do you think there's merit to that?
I believe so. I believe that there has to be a balance to everything, because on the other side, technology does create a different type of learner. Their ability to just grasp information, to be self-directed, to discover things on their own. On our phone, they have the power of have access to information that we never had real time. So their ability to learn and absorb and understand information is significantly faster. And it starts at a much, much younger age. So there is something to say about the benefit of technology, but there are some fundamental skills, the foundation of learning that tangible books, that the library brings, that music brings, all of those things that make us a better society.
Well, as long as people are engaging with not just information, but truthful information, with facts and not alternative facts. And how do you then, isn't there then the pressure or the need to teach children how to distinguish in between what's real and what's not real, and with what they engage in online or?
Absolutely. I think that parents, educators, mentors, tutors, online safety is definitely something which is of the utmost importance. And we've actually had some classes at the library about learning about how to tell if something is a real fact or an alternative fact.
Oh, really?
We have.
At what age?
They are geared towards elementary school up to a little bit higher.
Well, I'm thinking about, what about the voting public?
That is definitely something we can look at in the future.
But tell me, just for our viewers and for me too, how do you determine, how do you distinguish between what's a fact and what's an alternative fact? What do you tell the children?
Well, so one of the things I always look at is, where's the source coming from? I think that's one of the biggest things, right? There's this whole, I saw it on the internet, it's true. I can breathe in outer space without a helmet. I'm totally fine.
Right.
But so checking the fact and checking the source. Throughout social media, a lot of ideas go forward and someone copies it and shares it and copies it and shares it until it's ubiquitous and it's clearly true because I saw it, 10 of my friends shared this. But teaching them, so where did they get it from? What's the source behind it? Is it a reliable website? If it's a quotation, does it have a person's name attached to it? Is everything actually spelled right in this quotation? Because if you notice a lot of grammatical errors or spelling errors, chances are it's a less reliable source.
And that assumes that the person reading it can spell.
It does.
Spell.
No, smelling is the books that he was talking about before. And I have to say, I'm really hoping that we didn't circulate the ones where you licked them. Just have
Do
to
they
point that
even
out.
exist still?
No, but whenever a kid comes into the library, I do have scratch and sniff stickers that I give them every time.
Scratch and sniff.
Stickers, not scratch and lick.
Well, if you know children, they're not.
They may lick them anyway.
A little bit, yeah, absolutely. And so to complement that point as well is that it also opens up the opportunity for rigorous debate, and that means interaction. So when there is a fact or an alternative fact and there's discussion about it, the pros and the cons, what's the validity of it? So again, because we talk about the technology age and our children, a lot of times they're doing this. Well, if they're spewing alternative facts and there's someone or a fact that someone wants to speak about, now we're opening up the door for dialogue and discussion, and that's where human relationships come from. That's where the oldest technology is actually storytelling or human communication. And I want to make sure that I put this out there, that technology is a tool. Machines are a technology. It's not computer technology. A fork is a technology. Anything that improves the human condition can be deemed a technology.
So, what about something that kind of limits it? Anything that improves the human condition. Suppose it's something that does not improve the human condition. And how do we tell? And can it still be technology? For example, and watch me step in it now, guns. Do they improve the human technology? I mean, the human condition?
I think that would be something that would be open to debate, right? I think that was the point that Chris was making, because I could say yes and he could say no. And one of the things that is amazing about the computer technology is it opens you up to the ability to look at that from different perspectives.
Yes.
But I think one of the things that needs to be taught through person-to-person communication is, how do you actually have a discussion about it instead of going, but I'm right.
Well, you all are making the technology into something that is beneficial. You're seeing it from its ideal potential. And yet there are those who say all of our technology is making us dumber. And why would people say that? That, what, it doesn't make us think for ourselves? We just go online and we see something and simply assume that it's correct.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I would actually say, so I think that technology, computer technology, has served a wonderful purpose in terms of communicating ideas and thoughts and actually introducing people to others who are similar to them. I think that technology, as an example, when I had my daughter, I was exhausted and I needed a way to make sure that I wouldn't fall asleep when I was nursing her at night. So I downloaded books and I read them on my phone. I couldn't have done that 10 years prior. And for some people who are in a small population where they feel they don't fit, through things like social media, they can find an online community where they feel supported.
Yes.
So I'd say, well, there are some people, and you can see them. They're the stories of the person who was walking down the street texting and fell into the manhole.
Oh, yes.
And everybody laughs about that.
Yes, or fell into the water fountain on the street,
there's a ton.
in the mall.
There's a ton of stories.
Yes.
So
Now, before we get to that, you said that technology allows people to see people who are like themselves. And I was thinking, isn't it important in terms of technology for people to see people who are different from themselves?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the way I was thinking.
Well,
oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, so just circling back to one thing, the Constitution, right to bear arms.
Yes.
So when you talked about guns,
Yes.
right, there is that in our Constitution.
Yes.
There is that right to bear arms.
Yes.
So for somehow they thought that that had a value, improving the human condition as a fundamental right of being a citizen.
Improving it or protecting it?
So wouldn't you? So that's again another point for possible discussion and debate.
Yes, it certainly is.
Would you believe that protecting is improving or keeping the status quo?
Protecting is maintaining the status quo. You're protecting things as they are.
So that they can,
Now, it
so they can progress.
depends on your long-term goal. Are you protecting things as they currently are so that you can be able to improve, or are you just protecting it just to keep it the way it is?
And that's a great topic, and that's a great point of discussion. And that's what part of this, your show is about, and also what we're discussing here as far as how technology could be utilized.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So the two of you are looking at technology as a tool that's capable of improving our existence immeasurably.
And you had mentioned some people
But of
believe
course,
that technology.
it's how it's used.
Yeah, some people believe that. I believe what they're referring to in terms of how technology is making us. You said, I don't know if you said dumber. Actually. What technology is allowing us to do is expand our horizons much faster than we could within human interaction. But the piece that they're concerned about is that human interaction, that human communication, that relationship. We are not meant to live in isolation. We're not meant to exist in isolation. And there are folks that are fearful that technology is creating a society of isolationists.
Yes, and also that technology is giving people or students the means to download material, writings, and plagiarize them. So, instead of going looking something up and writing it yourself, it's so easy just to grab something off the internet.
Well, what I will say to that, I'm married to a teacher. There are programs that the teachers actually use to ensure that doesn't happen.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, but that sort of thing has existed long before computers.
Yes.
Your older brother's friend who goes to another high school wrote something about this and still has his paper, and you turn it in under your name. I think one of the things that both Chris and I are trying through your organization and through the library is to make sure, other than parents having people who can teach, that's not a good choice, why not?
And that goes back to your idea of choices. And young people, making good choices. And will technology assist in the making of good choices?
The technology will assist in the opportunity to have a variety of choices.
The more choices you have, the harder it is to make a decision.
Sometimes it is. I think one of the goals with technology is to be able to make an informed decision, right? I mean, I use technology all the time. I have a cell phone, I have a tablet, but I mean, I use technology for work, not just to send emails, but the library has a Facebook page. We have a website that we consider our 13th branch, where you can actually go and download material. So while technology can be something which is not always used in the very best way, there are so many wonderful ways that it can be used to reach people who wouldn't otherwise know about a variety of different things.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we didn't necessarily touch on as far as the purpose between the library as well as Bay Area Tutoring Association is that there is disparity. And one of the things that online access to information has the ability to do, it has the ability to accelerate learning. She talked about the Quest program and how students could be tested in terms of, or we can understand what their testing is such a controversial word when it comes to a lot of different things. So we can understand where a student is in comparison to their grade level, and they can be a plan can be mapped out for them so they can reach grade level. So when you talked about that third grade possibility, if they're not learning to read or reading to learn, what their future may hold. Well, what technology could use, computer technology, a mentor, again, here we are, technology, all of these different tools can help them accelerate their learning so that they have the opportunity, one, to graduate on time, to stay interested in school, to understand what their gifts and their passions are, so that they can be good contributors to human society.
Well, that's the ideal, right? And you said that your passion, Adina, was to level the playing field, to work in diverse communities to make sure that everyone has an equal footing and an even playing field so that they can succeed in a way that meets their vision of life. And I'm sure you would agree with that. But is that happening now? For example, in East Palo Alto, where, what, would it be the majority of families aren't online yet?
So a lot of the families are online, but in ways that you wouldn't necessarily think. So
Yes.
I would say, I mean, I don't have a house phone. I have a smartphone, so does my husband. I would say that for a lot of families, that's their way of being connected. And the library actually checks out hotspots so you can actually have a free connection to the internet. I would say that the playing field is still very uneven, and that's one of the things we're trying to fix with open access, with tutoring, with all these different sorts of ways that people can learn. Chris and I spoke earlier about all the different ways that people can learn and about reframing it. A child who maybe isn't great at sitting still needs a different way of learning, not just, you need to read this, you need to do this. And we're both looking at it from a very holistic way, taking the whole child, the whole adult,
Yes.
and having them have a variety of experiences to find that passion, to ignite it, so they can be successful. I think that's the ideal for most adults who have children, that their children are more successful than they are. And I think that leveling the playing field, raising up those children who are born to a variety of disadvantages through meals, through tutoring, through music, through exploration, through sports,
Yes.
through so many different learning experiences.
That sounds so good, but is it happening? I mean, we're
Slowly.
living in a time where statistics show the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And the middle class is disappearing. So there are all of these things that you're talking about in terms of the potential of technology. And are those who are in that class getting poorer?
I like
Or
to
those
add-
who are speaking English as a second language, do they have access? I guess that's it. Is it access?
I like to add that when we talk about the pros of technology or access, there's an unspoken, if I know and I understand how to utilize, I have the ability to accelerate my learning. I have the ability to use technology more than someone else who's getting used to technology. So while there are improvements with students and communities, those that are already at a certain point are accelerating their learning. So will the playing field ever be level? The playing field was never level. But the thing that I believe in inherently is that we're all gifted differently. And how do we use technology, society, common good, so that everyone's gift can be acknowledged? through the use of the traditional academic system. And right
So
now
when you
it
talk
doesn't.
about we're all gifted differently, gifted how?
Gifted how? I don't know. Well,
Isn't that just an assumption? You're gifted how? You're gifted how? How am I gifted? I mean, and each person is gifted. How? That's an assumption.
So my assumption is each of us has purpose. We talked a little bit earlier that we all won the first race.
Just
that we
by
were
getting
in,
here
right? We all
on this
won.
earth.
Right. So if we're here,
Yes.
then there is a reason why we're here.
One
There's something that
thinks so.
one would think so. Well, that's what, because if you think about the purpose of education, the purpose of education is to say society, humanity needs certain things so that it can continue. And one of the fundamental things, at least in America, they're saying that if we educate our children, it provides the opportunity for them to contribute to society in different ways. Now, there are haves, there are have-nots, and there are folks that make choices to try to be, I don't want to say more than a have than they should be, but they do make choices that look to suppress others. And so but then there's also systems that are in place, for example, the library, nonprofit organizations, some components of government that are designed to do the best that they can to establish or to continue the growth of the middle class, or for it to continue to exist. And yes, it's a struggle right now, absolutely.
Yes, and I'm thinking you could have the technology, you could have the programs. People are gifted differently. Now, I believe that, although no one asked me, but I ask you. But then there is, how do you give people the motivation to believe that they have something to offer
so
that's different from somebody else?
I think that starts at a young age.
Yes.
We commonly say that a parent is a child's first teacher.
Yes.
And then there's the other adage, which is it takes a village to raise a child. I think that in terms of the gap, and I can't speculate, I don't know what the future holds for that, but in terms of having someone being motivated, having someone see that light within themselves. Some people are intrinsically motivated. I want to read, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an artist, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a teacher. Some people are a little bit more lost. I want to be something, but I don't know what, and some people just go, I've been told I can't be anything. And I think
Or I'm doing what my friends are doing and they're hanging out on the streets.
and they're hanging out on the streets. I think that having those positive role models in school, in life, in a church, in a library, in whatever places, that they say, I like that, and that's attainable. What do I have to do? And then actually having people available to be the mentor, to guide the route, because for those have-nots, there can be so many roadblocks
Yes.
in the way.
Yes.
And so removing those roadblocks, I think that's up to people who want to make that change for the better,
Yes.
who see that youth and go, I see that spark in you. You're hungry. Let's have
Yes,
a
but
meal.
you know
Let's...
what? You can ask for the people who can see that spark, but those people you're talking about have to have a spark within themselves.
And that's that's an excellent point.
Because
That's a
if
great
you
part
don't
of our
have it
work.
within yourself, you can't give it to somebody else.
And there's training. So Bay Area Tutoring Association, we train tutors. We take young folks that have some academic ability in whatever subject, and we match them with a student. We match. So it could be a younger student, could be a peer, but there is a relationship established that is truthful. Not everyone. There are excellent students in math, but they didn't love math. They worked at it. And for someone to hear, wait a minute, you didn't like math, but you're really good at it? Yes, I worked at it. I chose because this was one of the goals and objectives that I wanted for me in my life. And let me show you. And they come right alongside and they realize they have these, and Oprah said it, these aha moments. When kids have a chance to experience aha moments, whether it's in the library or with a tutor or a mentor or a parent or a friend or a sibling, it gives them an understanding that they have a sense of purpose. So this all rolls back into choice, the understanding of purpose. So that's what the Bay Area Tutoring Association focuses on. We partner with organizations, with libraries, with nonprofits, with city governments to say that we're going to bring in a team of people, a team of tutors that are experienced in a number of different areas for a number of different levels of student, whether it's for reading. We have a reading program. As a matter of fact, it's a book publishing program called El Libro es mi amigo. The book is my friend. Because we realize in a lot of young students that reading is not something that they want to do. So we turn them into authors.
Oh.
So again,
where they're writing books.
They're writing books, and they go through a library experience. They look at a number of different types of books, fiction, nonfiction. They look at the covers, and we're saying, okay, you're going to take us on a journey. So that's a program that allows students to discover who they are, or children, who they are, something about their gifts. We ask them, there's somebody famous in your family. Everybody has someone. Go home and ask.
Famous for what?
Famous for what? So it could be famous or infamous. But they go home and they research their family. And someone will say, yes, your cousin or such, and they'll, wow, I didn't ever knew that. Now we've got that human relationship. Now we have that dialogue. Now we have that inspiration, that spark. They're saying, I'm going to write about this because this is part of who I am. So technology allows those things to happen in ways that they could have never happened before. Again, are those that are knowledgeable accelerating so it doesn't look like the gap is closing? Absolutely. But everyone learns at their pace.
Everyone learns at their pace, and he talked about the tutoring programs. The library has the Quest program and other programs. The free meals, free food.
Yeah,
you mentioned that.
So hunger is a big issue in East Palo Alto, and you can't learn if you're hungry. You can't focus if you're hungry. So Monday through Friday, we actually have meals at 3:45. For a lot of kids, their last meal that they get for the day otherwise would be at noon, that they're getting for free or reduced price at school. For the summer, we're even changing it so that we have 2 meals, one at noon and one at 3:45.
Where is the food coming from?
Excellent.
It's through Revolution Foods, through Second Harvest Food Bank, and partially funded by the library.
And what kind of food?
Let's see, this past week we've had chicken sliders, we've had chicken tacos, we had cheeseburgers, always with a fresh fruit and some milk.
Vegetables?
Yes, if we try to sneak them in the burger. Which I still do as an adult.
Some of us eliminated the burger.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of those things about when we're talking about a level playing field. We are talking about technology. We are talking about access, Wi-Fi hotspots and combos with a computer that you can check out.
Yes.
But it's also really meeting people's needs, not wants, but actual needs. You need to eat. So let's provide that for you. And then beyond that, what else can we do to level that playing field? You know, some people start out as they're starting on Go, and other people are already on step 3. And how can you level that without feeding somebody?
Yes, I'm thinking you hit something when you said we meet people's needs, not wants. But then at the same time,
No, we do meet
yeah,
people's
I'm
wants
thinking
too.
you want to. I know you meet the wants too, because if you're not meeting the wants, people won't be there. You
Right.
know, they want something from you, and
Yes.
if you could meet the need that they want, then
Yes.
they'll be there. Right? Now, you brought something with you, something else in addition to the ukulele.
So at the library, we've diversified. I mean, in people as well as in technology in our services. Most of our staff speak a second language, Spanish or Tongan in East Palo Alto. We do want to make sure that everyone does feel welcome, and Those are two of our minority languages. But the other way that we've diversified is through things like Wonder Woman. This is a 3D printed Wonder Woman, giant Lego that I printed out yesterday in pieces. She is movable because Wonder Woman Day is coming up on June 3rd.
Yes.
So we're actually going to have an online contest to see who wins giant Lego Wonder Woman. But when printing out something like this, the skills it takes, being able to spell, being able to use an internet browser, someone scanned this and put it online, and I downloaded it. They can design their own, too.
Now, as someone who's never used a 3D printer, I expected that to be in cardboard.
Oh.
No.
No?
You can tell I have a lot to learn. So how do you get that type of material out of a printer?
So it looks like a box, and you download a file. You can either design your own. For example, I designed little standing objects of my two favorite children's book characters, who are the ones who are tattooed on my arm, Elephant and Piggy. So I designed them, and then the computer program tells the printer the way to melt filament into a design.
Filaments that are in the printer.
Yep, so you can load up different color, and it's just a small plastic tube that's hard plastic. It heats up through a very hot nozzle that's about 200 degrees Celsius, and it has a specific program to make different shapes. For example, if you're looking at her legs, you'll see they're actually what shape on the bottom? Squares.
Yes.
So all of it comes down to shape. And thinking about that spatially is one of those ways that we can level that playing field.
Can I download a computer?
You can't download a computer, though I did have someone download a slug trap and something to fix their toilet, as well as all the Pokemon characters and keychains your heart can desire.
That's absolutely amazing.
3D.
Amazing.
So imagine the mind of a child being unlocked to believe that, to understand that they can be creators.
Well, I'm even thinking, think of the mind of someone who might be locked and how all of this helps them unlock
Yes.
their mind to unlimited potential.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Right, if you can imagine it, you can create it. The most uplifting stories, generally speaking, for our 3D printer, it hasn't happened at our branch, but for people who are born or have lost a limb, they've actually 3D printed hands that they can use. Pretty fascinating, huh?
Yes.
And it's free because it's at the library.
You can download and print a hand, but is there an attachment that goes with the download? Because you have to attach it in somehow.
Yes, so for those, they can't, so I can change the size of things that I print out.
Yes.
So you would either download or create the shapes that you need to create the hand, and they actually make them so that they can move, and then make it so it's the right size to fit onto
That's
limb.
amazing. Now, we've gotten kind of into detail
Yes.
of specific things, and I'm just thinking, since we have less than 5 minutes to go,
Yes.
what it is that you might want to share that you haven't shared.
Well, I think in the context of our conversation, well, first of all, thank you again for the opportunity to be on your show. This is a very rich conversation in a lot of different ways. So what I'd like to share is that there's a misnomer or a stigma around tutoring. In affluent communities, students believe that tutoring is the additional support that they're looking for, that they need. In non-affluent communities or socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, kids have prone to think that tutoring is for people that are stupid. And it's just the opposite. Parents are tutors. You have a boss at work, your boss is a tutor. Coaches are tutors. There's so many different types of tutors out there for people, but the word isn't used. But there's a connotation of the word tutoring that some kids think that I don't need a tutor, I'm not stupid. It's just the opposite. If you need support, if there's something that you want to know that you don't know and you want to seek out that information, because we learn from each other. We learn through experience. So I think the thing that I do want to say is that Tutoring is for everyone, lifelong learners. If you went into the library and wanted to become familiar with a 3D printer, you might get a librarian, but that librarian is going to tutor you on how to use that technology. And then areas where your mind may be locked, it has an opportunity to be unlocked. So I think that's very important.
Yes, it is very important. So expect to see me in the library soon, Adina.
Absolutely. I will show you how to use the 3D printer.
And what else that you haven't talked about or that you have talked about that you might want to emphasize or speak more about?
Well, with a San Mateo County Libraries card, what you can do is you can actually use your card at all San Mateo County libraries. And kids' cards don't get any fines. As long as you return the material, your fine disappears. And part of that is opening up access for people who can't pay, or for people where, well, I took out 60 children's books and they're all late. And so instead, children's library cards don't ever receive fines. We also have partnerships with a lot of museums. With your library card, you can get free or discounted passes to places like Curiosity, the Exploratorium, Legion of Honor, the Academy of Sciences, and other really neat places. And then the last thing I'd say is a lot of people don't know that libraries really are for everyone.
Yes.
We welcome everyone from every background. Please come and visit us.
Why wouldn't people think that libraries are for everyone?
Well, I think for a lot of people, they think, as you said, I can just download that. And we have so much more than we can just download. And for some people...
Like the free cooking classes.
Like the cooking classes, like learning how to juggle.
But it's also generational. If you grew up with the library experience, I surveyed 100 college graduates. All of them could share with me a library experience early on. Working with students whose parents may have not graduated from college or gone to college, we talk a little bit about the library, and some of them never had a library experience.
Oh.
So again, those are the things, the power of the library, the power of tutoring, the power of communication in that human relationship with the use of technology.
Well, I can't tell you how much I feel empowered already. Just sitting here listening to you talk about the potential of what we have right now. Within our own realities and what we can do with them.
Yes.
And so I'd like to thank you very much for coming to share
Thank you
and
very
talk
much.
about it.
Thank you.
I hope our viewers feel enriched and will make use of some of the tips that you've given them. And I'd like to thank our viewers for watching. Until next time.
Thank you.
Oh, you're...